So what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to talk about a change in posture that can affect your ball striking and your ability to compress the golf ball. And this video has been prompted because a recent student of mine, somebody who I'd met, who had a few lessons over his time of getting into golf, but was gradually getting worse. And it was because he was kind of trying to do things that you just couldn't affect. And the reason why was because of this basics in posture. So we just get stuck into it and exactly what are we looking for, particularly when we're trying to do things like compress our irons. Ultimately, what's going to happen is that the way that we offer the ball compression is going to come with hands, okay, in terms of what the hands are doing. So if I sort of hit a shot here where I sort of scoop at it, which means I'm sort of letting the club head overtake in the hands, it kind of offers you more of a sort of feeling of like a thwack, like a cluddy sound on the back of the ball. If I can keep my hands forward and not hit the ground, but if I can keep my hands forward, then what will happen is it'll offer you that more sense of compression, better ball striking. Now, what we know in the full swing is that a professional golfer has this ability to lead with the hands, and obviously leading with the hands gives us this ability to return with less theoretical loft as opposed to doing this. But also we know that the handle of the club is working up, this type of motion here. So these are the things that are very, very important when it comes to being able to compress the ball, which is why then your body position becomes equally important. So the student who came for the lesson was just excessively tilted, got himself set up. The head was positioned too much over this way. Shoulders were far too tilted. Body was, I would say almost, I'm going to say kind of slightly closed towards the target, like so. And just from this position, the problem is that you're just going to end up too much over this trail side. And what I'm basically saying is it doesn't matter what you do with your hands, from here you're never going to be able to get them over the ball. What we need to do is we need to be more here, you see. So that we're much more sort of theoretically on top of the ball, not behind it this way, more this way. And I see this a lot with a lot of online students as well that reach out for help. They're trying to improve their impact area. They say, Russ, look, I've videoed it, I'm scoopy. And quite often it will be attributed down to a poor posture. So if you feel like that's you, here's what I want you to work on. I want you to do a couple of things. I want you to check your width of stance first. Make sure that if you were to draw a line through the instep of either ankle, it would fall on the line of your hip. I want you to start experimenting with flaring the lead foot more. This will be surprisingly make it so much easier to actually shift pressure into that lead side and trigger rotation, which will help you stay much more over the golf ball. And then what I also want you to do is you don't have to necessarily do this, but you could play around with this in practice, is I want you to just sort of get the feeling of keep your head and your shoulders parallel to target, but just allow your hips to slightly open. And I mean, you can play around with it, but just slightly open. Because when the hips are quite parallel, like so, it can often get us quite tilted this way. If you allow the hips to open, you'll often find that it's easier to feel like your upper body sits a little bit more on top of the ball. And it's not uncommon. What we tend to see with a lot of tour professionals from data is that the hips might be slightly open, not perfectly parallel to target. And what we'll also know is that the weight is preferential on the lead side to start off with, not necessarily always 50-50. So going back to my student, look kind of this way, almost a little bit sort of what we'd say is pigeon-toed or sort of turned in feet. Upper body, you know, like so. Hips sort of perfectly aligned like this, 50-50 weight pressure, but you know, you can already see the difference between a position like this and say a position which looks a little bit more this way. You see from here, you're going to be able to lift that club up, rotate through the ball and get the hands moving nicely over the ball, giving you the best chance of offering compression. It'll work. It'll feel different. Of course it will. I'm not underestimating that, but that's kind of what you're after in some of your practice sessions. You kind of don't want to always be doing the same thing. Otherwise, you're just never learning anything new. See you soon.